Warren Commission was created to find out what was the evidence, apart from emotion, apart from politics, apart from the passion existing at the time. What did the evidence say? This exhibit is created so that you are in the place of different important individuals in this assassination. First, when you come up the steps, you're in the parade itself, seeing the people welcome you in. Then when you go to the limousine where the president was assassinated, you sit in the seat the president sat in. You are in the place of Abraham Zapruder, who filmed the assassination. And finally, you are in the place of all inspector, looking at the evidence, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and what does logic and reason determine. So what I'd like to do is take you along with me to examine the evidence and indeed make your own conclusions. Welcome to Dealey Plaza, the site of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Here we have a timeline, and most importantly, the limousine, which you see behind me, which is critical evidence in determining who killed John F. Kennedy, how many shooters were involved, was there a conspiracy. What you have to understand by going through this exhibit is first where it all began. President Kennedy came to Dallas for the reason of raising money for his oncoming presidential campaign. It was a friendly time. People were waving their hands, but things changed as he got into Dealey Plaza. What we know is there were 3 shots from Lee Harvey Oswald. We know the first shot missed. The third shot, and I'll get to the second one in a moment because that's the important one. The third shot hit President Kennedy in the head. That's the bullet that killed President Kennedy. What you're looking at is a Zapruder film. Positioning of everyone in the vehicle, whether it's Kennedy or Conley or even Jackie, is absolutely essential to Spector's analysis of what happened here. Unbelievably, Abraham Zapruder, and you can see the camera, it's a Bell and Howell. This is the only record we have of the actual assassination of President Kennedy, and it's critical to all inspectors' analysis because it shows where everyone was in that vehicle, which way they were facing and how they were turned. Now we have 2 bullets. The second bullet, what did that do? All inspectors said that that was the single bullet that hit Kennedy in the neck, exited Kennedy's neck over here, and went into the body of Governor Conley, who was sitting in front of him in the limousine.
This limousine, built by architecture students at the university, is the biggest piece of evidence that we have in finding the trajectory and how many shooters were involved in the assassination. Illustrated here we have President Kennedy and Governor Conley. Here on the 6th floor of the book depository was where Lee Harvey Oswald's nest was found. If he did in fact shoot from this area with 1 bullet, you can see the trajectory going through President Kennedy's neck, then through the ribs of Governor Conley, and then through his wrist, as opposed to Governor Conley sitting straight forward and having the bullet come from another area. But as our inspector and the Warren Commission found out through the Zapruder film that he was in fact turned, and that creates the perfect trajectory for 1 bullet to pass through and cause all 6 injuries.
If that bullet did not do all that damage, the neck in Kennedy, back of Conley, chest of Conley, then there has to be another shooter. And if there's another shooter, there's a conspiracy.
What we have here is a representation of what Lee Harvey Oswald would have seen through his rifle from the 6th floor of the book depository. The architecture students set up a camera to create this single bullet theory in reality. So what we have is the red dot pointed at the back of President Kennedy and how it would have lined up with Governor Conley's ribs. So what we have here is a replica of Dealey Plaza created by the architecture students. Over here, you have the book depository and where Lee Harvey Oswald's nest was located. You have the president's route on Elm Street. And then you have the single bullet theory, the overpass theory, and the grassy knoll theory. So we have 3 lines, 3 trajectories from the single bullet theory. 1 being bullet 1, which missed when the car was back here. 2, the single bullet, which went through President Kennedy's neck and Governor Conley's back and ribs and wrist. And then you have the 3rd and fatal shot to President Kennedy's head.
The trajectories are very important evidence, but our inspector was a prosecutor and understood that when you prove something, you have to prove it definitively, and the investigation did not stop there. So what I'm going to be showing you shortly is 3 critical points of evidence that further supported and led to the single bullet theory. The first thing has to do with the location of the bullet wounds in Kennedy's neck. Now here was the problem. When Kennedy was having the autopsy performed on him immediately after the death, the doctors were examining the wounds in the back, and there were FBI agents actually hanging out in the back of the room. And what they heard is, we can't find the exit wound. Now, if there's no exit wound to the neck injury, then that bullet has to be inside the body. And if that bullet's inside the body, that means there must be another shooter that shot Governor Conley. 2 shooters, that's a conspiracy. What we found out is that the exit wound indeed was here. But the reason why the autopsy surgeons did not see it immediately is because in the emergency room, the doctors put a tracheotomy tube right here. The path of the bullet, when it started at the back of Kennedy's neck and actually exited the front, meaning that bullet can travel into Conley. The second point of evidence is the medical records themselves. If we look over here, this is a standard drawing in almost every emergency room record, and still today. And right here is the bullet entry wound in the back of Kennedy's jacket. Now, I said previously, as also as Dee Dee, that the wound to Kennedy was in the neck back here. But if we look here, that's not the neck. If you see it over here, this photograph was taken almost right before the assassination. And if you look at his jacket, what you see is his suit was humped up in the back. So if a bullet goes through here, it could go through my neck, but you pull it down and it goes to the middle of your back. Now we go to the third thing. This over here is actually the single bullet. Here it is. What Spector was concerned with, we see here, in x-rays, metal is shown. But if this weight plus the bullet, and as you can see, it lost a little metal on top, add up to the correct weight, then it indeed proves it is the bullet. And what Spector had said, everything could have fallen, everything, with this weighing. But indeed, it weighed what it was supposed to weigh. So putting the trajectories together, putting the wounds going through the neck, looking at the hump theory as we talked about, weighing this all, it all adds up to the single bullet theory.